I'm Dorothy Rowe, and the following video is an excerpt from a recent webinar on using energy healing to handle stress and trauma. Just before this excerpt starts, I'm talking about PTSD and laying some groundwork, but this excerpt begins just before the healing starts, and the healing's the exciting part. So that's what I wanted to share with everybody here. If you enjoy it, please do like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you for being with me. When some innocent young lad of the age of 18 or 19 enlists in the military thinking that they are doing a duty to their country and being protective and taking actions that will help promote peace ultimately, and finds themselves in a completely stressful situation where they're doing things to people that they find abhorrent, that the actions that they themselves perform have a much greater effect on their psychology than even seeing other people doing cruel actions. And that this is the foundation of, or this is like we could say the core or the seed of PTSD in the worst of cases. That's why so commonly suicide is the main cause of death for veterans when they come back, because they saw themselves in a light they had never seen before. And in that light, feel separate from the Creator. They feel the fact that they suffered, and this was the point I really want, this is the point I wrote down that I really wanted to get to. I mean, the point about PTSD is useful, and that's important. But to understand the mechanics of it is very important. But more important is a deep-seated illusion that has gripped our culture and has gotten sort of embedded at a very deep level of collective conditioning, so that this illusion is sort of systemically adopted. And the illusion is this: if you suffer and if you feel pain, that pain proves that you are disconnected from the source of creation. The way home is through your connection to source, but the illusion stands in the doorway between the suffering and getting home. It's an illusion. And when a person buys into that particular illusion, standing in that particular doorway, then what happens is like a cycle, a self-feeding cycle that builds up bigger and bigger and bigger layers, and is absolutely the fundamental mechanism behind suicide. This is the mechanism. I'm suffering. My suffering proves that I am not divinity, that I am not connected to the divine, that there's no part of me, and that makes me corrupted. And when I feel corrupted, it makes me feel worse. And the worse I feel, the more proof it is that I'm not connected. And the less I'm connected, the worse I feel. And the worse I feel, the less I'm connected. And it's just like, it just creates like a snowball effect. Like a vicious cycle. That's a vicious cycle. There's a vicious cycle. And the reason I bring it up is because it's one of the barriers that's sitting in our collective consciousness right now, in the collective consciousness of humanity, making it very difficult for us as a healing collective to get in and actually address the core of the issues. Because the core of the issues have to do with how do we deal with anger. Right now, the burning is all about anger. So that has to clear first, that illusion. And how do we clear it? We shine the light of our intelligence and our awareness upon it. And I'm defining it for everybody so that we can see it clearly. and see how it is an illusion. How it is an illusion. What is that when that vicious cycle is created? What happens? There are certain types of there's certain regions in the causal field that are nurtured or nourished through short-term means of extracting energy from the environment. And this type of cycle is a very fast, very short-term way of extracting life force out of a human being or out of a collective. It's short-term and it's fast. It does not have long-term benefits, but it is super effective for, for draining life force out of the system. Clearing from the causal field, from the causal body, clearing illusion, clearing malevolence, clearing deep discordant feelings, clearing these also from the solar plexus area and the throat and the reproductive organs. There's some kind of connection to sexuality, and there's something there also, like identifying as corrupted somehow. So that's also clearing. But the throat, going up into the sinuses. Back to the solar plexus. Clearing malevolence again, more layers of malevolence. These discordant feelings that we're clearing are the hard outer shell of a knot of karma. Now that we've cleared these discordant feelings, we go into the knot of karma. The knot of karma is born of threads, and the core, the mother thread in this knot of karma is this belief that any pain that I experience is somehow a validation that I am unworthy to experience pleasure. And some of the connecting chords in there include this idea that I'm experiencing this pain and I will always, always experience this pain. You know, it's that idea that the chaotic state will never go back to a state of order, but that's based on a very kind of short-term perception of the way the creation rolls, because the creation is constantly, that pendulum is constantly swinging. There's another thread in there. I was just thinking of it when I went onto that tangent. Oh yes, identity, ego. Ego is also another thread in that knot of karma. And as I'm describing these threads, we're like unknotting the knot of karma, and we're unknotting it not just for ourselves, not just for our past lives, not just for our ancestors, but the whole collective field of humanity, because it's so enmeshed at such a deep level of our collective. But this idea that my identity is kind of tied up with this idea of being separate from divinity, that somehow I am something separate from my divine nature. You cannot be separate. It's simply not possible. Even the thought of separation is also divinity. Like there is no particle that is not. So we need, I'm just asking being, in the presence, in the company of such enlightened souls, how do we communicate? Is there a download that can be given to the collective that this is this truth, a truth download, that there is no particle of anyone's nature anywhere. There's no piece, there's no bit, there's nothing that is not source energy folding in on itself and creating this creation. Requires a little bit of letting go. It requires a little bit of, in some cases, like faith. Oh, I learned the most lovely word that means that. It was a Sanskrit word. I learned this last week, pranidhana. And the word pranidhana normally translates as surrender in English. But the word surrender is really not a very good word to describe that. I think I've decided that faith is a better word to describe that. But also, we could use a phrase, which is leaning into one's own pure potential. Or you could say leveraging your pure potential is a better way to describe that word pranidhana. Because it means, it describes that moment when chaos reigns and the sense of self has been contracted enough that the chaos is overwhelming and it's a little bit creating a little bit of uneasiness. And then that moment when there's a kind of, you let go. So that's why the word surrender was in there. But that moment when the small sense of who I am grows, it expands to a greater sense of who I am, a greater comprehension of my divine nature, and with that comprehension and integration of the divine nature in parts of the self that have never been before. And this is why we started today's session with that amazing question to the source of creation. Cannot the one wholeness of creation, which is fundamental to all expressions in the relative, cannot that also evolve to the point that all of us as individual expressions are liberated from the experience of suffering as a means of evolving? At least those who are ready, at least those who are ready. And now I see that that question at the beginning ties into this moment as a feature of this part of the healing process. Because what we've done is we've kind of formulated a download, and you could say divinity within us has formulated a download or an expression of pranidhana as not a scary or unpleasant or fear of the future or fear of the unknown or fear of being imperfect or fear of making mistakes, which are often associated with that moment when what I know myself to be, I realize it isn't. That limited expression that I thought I was is not correct. So where am I going? What am I expanding into, right? And so all those fears are clearing. And as you recall at the beginning of our session, we were clearing all these fears. Oh, we're down to 10 minutes and there's so many questions coming in. I might have to start tomorrow's session with questions, but that's okay. I wanted to get through this and get to the point of resolution. Thank you everyone for understanding. That this healing, it's such a big healing. It's such a big healing to light the connection between each individual person and their anchor, which is the source of creation, that the anchor resides in every particle of their being. It is such a big thing to give that download to the collective. It's a game changer, guys. It's a game changer. So this is what we're doing. So we're giving this game changer to the field of humanity at this time. 2020 was the year. 2020 was the year that the chaos reigned so completely that the collective consciousness, enough percentage of our collective consciousness was able to let go of any kind of individual attachments to what and who we are as a collective, and accept and receive this download, this truth that washes away the illusion that when you suffer, that's proof that you're useless and terrible and deserve to suffer. No, 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 no. Even the suffering is, we could say, a misguided Because here the healing isn't just for us and it isn't just for the human collective. The healing is for divinity itself. That the suffering is a misguided approach to a short-term solution for the evolutionary process. The idea there is, well, here is the divine source of creation. Here is where humanity is right now. To get humanity over to recognize and realize its divinity and integrate that divinity is going to have to snap. It's going to have to, something's going to have to break, right, in order to make that happen, because that's like doing it really fast, like the short-term solution. And what I'm suggesting is, instead of it breaking like that, like going over the barrier, that instead is a slide. It's a slide down into that moment of chaos. Oh, it's all possibilities. Oh, pranadhana, where I suddenly realize that my own pure potential is the key to my ability to navigate this difficult situation. And instead of it having to break something on the surface to make that transition occur, it slides. It's like it becomes slippery and it just slides into that condition instead. We're offering slipperiness, the slippery slope. We're offering the slippery slope, the oiling. We're oiling up the junction between the condition of suffering and the solution. Infinite solutions, infinite creativity, infinite intelligence on the part of divinity can find ways for us to navigate these difficult situations that do not involve suffering, that uphold people's dignity and well-being and comfort. You guys know, we've talked about this a lot. You know what makes the field of consciousness slippery? Do you know what makes it as smooth so that everything flows? Soma. Soma does it. And Soma is born of our physiologies. It's born in every cell of the body, in the mitochondria of the cells of our body, when we are anchored to source. So what our collective is doing is we are standing as an expression, as a solid, unflinching, pure expression of every particle is an expression of divinity. We're just that. We're just being that. We're being that, like we're exempling for the collective. And as we do that, our huge collective, and this is the most number of participants we've ever had actually signed in and participating right now, our huge collective is creating a great tidal wave of Soma, that supports and nourishes the laws of nature, that support smooth, timely, dignified, comfortable evolutionary transformation. I am cluing in with the causal level of creation and watching the tidal wave of Soma nurture the life-supporting laws of nature that allow the wholeness of creation to buy into the vision that our evolution has the potential. Humans are smart. We put man on the moon. We made the internet. We're smarty pants. That we have the potential to grow into our highest potential without suffering. It's a tall order. That's a tall order to the creation. But it's not too tall. Because the source of creation is unbounded. It is an infinite source of intelligence and creativity. There is nothing that it cannot accomplish. I am especially seeing Soma produced in those areas that we cleared before, the very areas that were blocked up and lodged up with that karma. Solar plexus, heart, throat, reproductive organs. Powerful, powerful. Whole body, hairs, the whole body can do it. Everybody's energy body in our healing circle is lighting up like light bulbs. You guys look like a string of Christmas lights. Lighting up with soma, and with consciousness. And when I say lighting up, what I'm seeing is the lighting up. It's like the enlivening of the Davic intelligence of the physiology. That means the aspect of divinity within each one of our bodies, which has the ability to make this level of change, this amazing, comprehensive transformation. We're rewriting the rules of human evolution. Up till now, the story of human evolution has been a story of sleepiness and people getting kicked around and pushed around and bunted around like a football and not knowing why and not knowing how and not knowing how to get out of it. And now it's waking up. And it starts waking up at the Davic level or at the causal, we'll say the causal body level of our bodies. And of course, that's a collective level, isn't it? That's a level when it wakes up in our bodies, it wakes up in all the bodies. Just a little bit more awake. It's a big collective work that we're doing here.